The message came through the quantum network at exactly 1432 Galactic Standard Time. Every communication hub across the Dominion Empire received it at the same moment, which should have been impossible. The Empire's own quantum network was supposed to be secure, protected by encryption that would take 1,000,000 years to break. But there it was, clear as starlight on every screen across 12 different worlds. The War Council chamber on the capital world of Nexus Prime fell silent as the holographic projection activated. The image showed a human male standing in what appeared to be a simple metal room. He wore a dark blue uniform with strange markings on the shoulders. His black hair was cut short, and his dark eyes looked directly at the camera with complete calm. "My name is Hyunwoo Kim," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "I speak for the planet Earth and all humanity. I am here to give you one warning." Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian race leaned forward in his floating chair. His forearms crossed over his chest as his large green eyes studied the human. The Zephyrians had conquered 47 worlds for the Empire. This small creature did not look dangerous. "We know you plan to attack our world," Hyunwoo continued. "Your fleets are already moving toward our star system. We know about your third fleet, your bioships, and your planet-killing weapons. We know everything." A ripple of concern went through the chamber. How could these primitives know about classified military movements? The Empire's intelligence networks were perfect. They had never failed before. "I am here to tell you something very important," the human said. "Do not attack Earth. This is not a threat. This is not a demand. This is simply a warning given out of courtesy." The chamber erupted in what could only be called cosmic laughter. The Cytherian delegate, a being that looked like a walking crystal tree, made a sound like breaking glass that meant amusement. The Mordak representative, a creature covered in thick fur and sharp teeth, let out a rumbling sound that shook the floor. Admiral Zekvon of the Nexus Navy stood up on his 6 legs. His voice boomed across the chamber. "This primitive dares to warn the Empire. We have destroyed 1,000 worlds. We have turned entire star systems into dust. What can one small planet do against our might?" In the hologram, Hyunwoo seemed to hear the question even though it was impossible. He smiled slightly. "You are thinking that we are weak. You are thinking that we are afraid. You are wrong on both counts." Another figure stepped into view behind Hyunwoo. This one was a woman with long black hair tied back in a simple style. She wore the same blue uniform but with different markings. Her name appeared on the screen as Taejin Park. "We have studied your empire for 50 years, Taejin said. "We know how you fight. We know your weapons. We know your tactics. You always do the same thing. You show up with overwhelming force and demand surrender. Most species give up without a fight." She paused and looked directly at the camera. "Humans are not most species." A third figure joined them. This one was smaller, a woman with short hair and glasses. The screen identified her as Ji-Won Lee. She carried a small device that projected images into the air above her hand. "We want to show you something," Ji-Won said. The device activated, and images filled the space around her. They showed scenes from Earth's history: wars, battles, cities burning and being rebuilt, people fighting against impossible odds. "This is what we do," she explained. "When faced with extinction, we do not surrender. We fight. When our weapons break, we make new ones. When our cities fall, we build them again. When we are told something is impossible, we find a way to make it possible." The images changed. Now they showed humans in space building massive structures between the stars. They showed ships that seemed to bend reality around them. They showed weapons that the Empire's scientists would have called impossible. "You see," Ji-Won continued, "we have had 50 years to prepare for this day. 50 years to think about how to fight an enemy that has never lost a war. 50 years to solve problems you did not even know existed." Commander Veltar felt something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. The images showed technology that seemed beyond what these primitives should possess, but it had to be fake. It had to be. A fourth human appeared on screen. This one was a man with broad shoulders and scarred hands. The name Donghyun Choi appeared below his image. He said nothing, but his presence filled the room with something that made even the Empire's greatest warriors uncomfortable. Hyunwoo stepped forward again. "We are not asking you to change your plans out of fear. We are asking you to change them out of wisdom. Earth is not like the other worlds you have conquered. We are not helpless. We are not defenseless, and we are definitely not easy prey." The transmission began to fade, but Hyunwoo's voice remained clear. "You have been warned. What happens next is your choice. But remember this moment when you wonder how everything went so wrong. The hologram disappeared, leaving the War Council in silence. For several minutes, no one spoke. Finally, Admiral Zekvon laughed. Clever editing and pretty pictures. These humans think they can scare us with special effects. But Commander Veltar was not laughing. Something about the way the humans had looked at the camera bothered him. They had not looked like people making desperate threats. They had looked like people stating simple facts. "Sir?" one of his aides whispered. "Our communication networks are supposed to be impossible to hack." Veltar nodded slowly. That was the problem. If the humans could do the impossible once, what else might they be capable of? 3 hours later, the Empire's War Council voted to proceed with the attack on Earth. The vote was unanimous. After all, they were the Dominion Empire. They had never lost a war. But as the council members left the chamber, more than one of them wondered why the humans had looked so calm, so confident, so ready. On Earth, Hyunwoo Kim stood in the communication center and watched the quantum network confirm that his message had been received. Around him, his team began shutting down the equipment they had used to hack into the Empire's supposedly secure network. "Think they'll listen?" Tae-jin asked. Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, they're too proud. Too used to winning. Then why warn them at all?" Hyunwoo looked out through the window at the blue sky above. Somewhere out there, the Empire's fleets were already moving toward Earth. Somewhere out there, the greatest military force in the galaxy was coming to destroy his world. "Because," he said quietly, "when this is over, we want them to remember that we tried to do this the easy way first." Dong-hyun Choi stepped up beside them. "All stations report ready. The warning has been given. Now we wait," but they would not wait long. The Empire's third fleet was already 6 months out from Earth. Soon the galaxy would learn what happened when an unstoppable force met an unmovable object. The humans were ready. 6 months had passed since the warning, and Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the Sol system grow larger on the main screen. Behind him stretched the third fleet of the Dominion Empire, 300 ships strong. Each vessel was a masterpiece of destruction, capable of burning continents or cracking moons. The bioships of the Zephyrian Navy moved like giant sea creatures through space, their living hulls pulsing with organic weapons. The crystal destroyers of the Catherians caught starlight and turned it into pure energy beams. The metal warships of a dozen other races filled the darkness between the stars. "Status report," Veltar commanded. "All ships report ready for combat." His second-in-command replied, "Weapons charged, shields at maximum. The primitive planet shows no signs of advanced defenses." Veltar nodded but felt that same strange unease he had experienced during the human transmission. 6 months of intelligence gathering had shown Earth to be exactly what it appeared. A single world with basic space technology. Their ships were slow and primitive. Their weapons were simple chemical rockets and energy beams that could barely scratch Imperial armor. So why did he feel like something was wrong? On Luna Base, Dr. So Young Nam watched the approaching fleet through sensors that the Empire did not know existed. The quantum detection grid hidden throughout the solar system tracked every ship, every weapon, every communication. The aliens had no idea they were being watched. "Fleet composition confirmed," she reported through her secure comm. 300 vessels, mixed technology base. They're spreading into standard conquest formation. Light years away, her words reached Yujin Kang aboard Orbital Platform 7. The platform looked like a simple research station, one of dozens scattered around Earth's orbit. But appearances could be deceiving. "Message received," Yujin replied. "Passing word to all stations. The guests are almost here." The Empire's fleet slowed as they reached the outer edge of the Sol system. Commander Veltar studied the tactical display with growing confidence. Earth looked helpless. A few primitive satellites, some basic mining operations on the asteroids, a small research station on the moon. "Open a channel to the planet," he ordered. The main screen shifted to show the blue-green world hanging in space like a precious jewel. Such a beautiful planet. It would be a shame to destroy it, but the Empire needed its resources. "People of Earth," Veltar began, his voice broadcast on all frequencies. "I am Commander Veltar of the Dominion Empire's Third Fleet. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our territory. You have 2 choices. Surrender now and serve as workers for the Empire, or resist and face complete destruction." For long minutes, there was no response. The human governments remained silent. No desperate pleas for mercy, no offers of tribute, nothing. Then a single transmission came back from the planet. The voice belonged to Yujin Kang, though the Empire did not know her name. Warning acknowledged. Terms rejected. Prepare for consequences. Veltar laughed despite himself. These humans truly believed they could fight the Empire. Their courage was admirable, even if it was pointless. All ships, he commanded, assume attack formation. Prepare for planetary bombardment. The Imperial fleet spread out in a perfect sphere around Earth. Bioships moved to optimal firing positions. Crystal destroyers charged their energy weapons. Metal warships armed their planet killers. From his hidden position aboard Mining Station Echo 7, Lieutenant Commander Min Ho Song watched the alien formation take shape. The station looked like it was barely holding together. Just another piece of space junk left over from humanity's early expansion into space. But appearances were very deceiving. All call signs. "This is Control," Minho said into his comm. "The guests have arrived. Time to show them what hospitality looks like." Across the solar system, similar messages passed between stations that looked abandoned, asteroids that seemed empty, and ships that appeared to be nothing more than drifting debris. The Empire's sensors showed exactly what the humans wanted them to see. A primitive species with no real defenses. "Begin bombardment," Commander Veltar ordered. 300 ships opened fire at once. Energy beams that could melt mountains lanced toward Earth. Projectiles that could shatter asteroids streaked through space. Bioweapons that could poison entire atmospheres spread toward the helpless planet. It should have been over in seconds. Earth should have become a ball of molten rock and poisoned air. Instead, something impossible happened. The weapons simply stopped. Every beam, every projectile, every bioweapon hit an invisible barrier around Earth and vanished. Not reflected or absorbed, but completely gone, as if they had never existed at all. "What just happened?" Veltar demanded. His weapons officer checked and rechecked his instruments. "Sir, our weapons fired normally. Energy readings show they should have reached the target, but they just disappeared." On Earth, Dr. He Jin-Yu stood in a control room buried 3 miles beneath the planet's surface. Around her, massive machines hummed with power that drew from the planet's core itself. The gravitational field generators had taken 30 years to build, and another 20 to perfect. "Barrier holding steady," she reported. "All incoming weapons neutralized." The barrier around Earth was not a shield in any sense the Empire would understand. It was a manipulation of space and time itself, a bubble where the laws of physics worked just a little differently. Weapons fired at Earth simply stopped existing the moment they crossed the boundary. Commander Veltar stared at his screens in disbelief. "Fire again." Full power. The fleet opened fire once more. This time they used their most powerful weapons, the ones reserved for cracking the crusts of planets. The combined firepower could have destroyed a small moon. Again, the weapons vanished the moment they neared Earth. "Sir," his science officer reported, "I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies around the planet. Something is manipulating space-time itself." Before Veltar could respond, his tactical officer shouted a warning. "Contact!" Multiple contacts throughout the system. The asteroids scattered throughout the Sol system began to unfold. What had looked like random chunks of rock revealed themselves to be massive weapons platforms, each one the size of a city. They had been there all along, hidden in plain sight. "How many?" Veltar asked. 200. 300. "Still counting, sir. They're everywhere." From aboard the hidden battleship Sol's Pride, Captain Yunjiryu smiled as she watched the Empire's panic spread across their communication networks. The ship was built inside a hollowed-out moon that had been carefully positioned decades ago. The Empire's sensors showed only empty space. "All weapons platforms report ready," she announced. "Beginning Phase 2. The human weapons opened fire, but not with energy beams or projectiles. Instead, they fired something that should not have been possible. Solid matter that traveled through folded space, appearing inside enemy ships without crossing the distance between. The Empire's shields were perfect. They could stop anything from the outside. But they could not stop weapons that appeared inside their ships and then exploded. Veltar watched in horror as ship after ship in his fleet simply burst apart from within. Explosions tore through hulls from the inside out. Bioships screamed and died as foreign matter appeared in their vital organs. Crystal destroyers shattered as their internal structures were disrupted. How is this possible? He whispered. His answer came from engineer Wu Bin Lim, though Veltar did not know the name. Wu Bin stood in a control center that existed partially outside normal space, watching as the first phase of Earth's defense succeeded perfectly. Activate Lazarus Protocol, he ordered. Across the solar system, the debris from destroyed human platforms began to move. Metal flowed like liquid, reforming into new shapes. What had appeared to be battle damage revealed itself to be something else entirely. A controlled transformation. The Empire watched in terror as human ships that had been destroyed reassembled themselves into new configurations. Worse, the debris from Imperial ships was being absorbed and converted, turned into raw material for even more human vessels. Within an hour, the Empire's fleet of 300 ships faced a human force of over 500 platforms, and the number was growing. Retreat, Veltar ordered. All ships retreat immediately. But as his fleet turned to flee, they discovered the trap was complete. The Sol system was not just defended, it was a maze. Gravity wells that had not been there before now blocked every escape route. Spatial distortions made faster-than-light travel impossible. They were trapped with an enemy that seemed to break the laws of physics themselves. Space Traffic Controller, Jae Sung. O's voice came across all frequencies. Calm and professional. Negative, Fleet Commander. You came here to conquer. Now you get to experience what it feels like to be prey. Commander Veltar felt something he had never experienced in 2 decades of conquest. Complete helplessness. His mighty Third Fleet was trapped in a solar system that had somehow become a prison. Every escape route was blocked by gravity wells that bent space itself into impossible shapes. Damage report, he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. 40% of the fleet destroyed or disabled, his tactical officer replied. The bioships are in panic. They can sense something wrong with space itself. Veltar understood the feeling. The humans had done something to the very fabric of reality around their world. The laws of physics seemed to work differently here, and the Empire's perfect technology was useless against an enemy that could rewrite the rules of existence. On Earth, Dr. He Jin-Yu watched her displays with satisfaction. The gravitational generators buried deep in the ocean floor were working perfectly. 50 years of planning had led to this moment, when humanity would show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. Space-time manipulation holding steady, she reported. The Empire's ships are locked in our gravity maze. They cannot escape without passing through designated exit points. But the gravitational fields were just the beginning. The real demonstration was about to start. From the hidden fortress built inside Earth's core, Admiral Bo-Ra Shin began the next phase of humanity's defense. The fortress had taken 20 years to construct, carved from solid rock and powered by the planet's molten heart. It was larger than most cities and completely invisible to outside sensors. Initiate Hunter Protocol, she commanded. Across the solar system, human ships that the Empire thought destroyed began to phase back into normal space. They had not been destroyed at all, but had simply shifted into a parallel dimension that existed alongside regular space. Now they returned, appearing behind the Empire's fleeing vessels like ghosts materializing in the dark. Commander Veltar watched his rear screens in disbelief as ship after ship reported contacts appearing from nowhere. How many human ships are there? His science officer checked the readings again and again. Sir, I count over 800 contacts, but that's impossible. Our initial scans showed they had maybe 50 vessels total. What the Empire did not understand was that humanity had learned to build ships that existed in multiple dimensions at once. They were there and not there, real and unreal, until the moment they chose to fully enter normal space. The quantum shipyards hidden throughout the system had been building these impossible vessels for decades. Fighter pilot Su Jin-Yoon led a squadron of ships that should not have been able to exist. Her fighter existed in a state of quantum superposition, meaning it was technically in 17 different places at the same time, until she chose to collapse the wave function and appear in reality. Ghost Squadron to all units, she transmitted. Beginning hunting run. Target, any Imperial ship trying to reach the system edge. Her fighters appeared around a fleeing Catherian destroyer like sharks emerging from deep water. The crystal ship fired desperately at targets that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. The human fighters were there when they fired, but somewhere else when the enemy weapons reached them. Sujin lined up her shot and fired. Her weapon was not an energy beam or missile, but a concentrated burst of quantum uncertainty. When it hit the crystal ship, it caused the target to briefly forget what state of matter it was supposed to be in. The destroyer simply came apart, its molecules forgetting how to hold together. Dr. Kyung-ho Bae watched the battle from his information warfare center hidden inside an asteroid. He had spent 30 years perfecting humanity's quantum communication network, and now it was time to use it as a weapon. Initiating electronic warfare protocols, he announced. The Empire's ships suddenly found their communications filled with false data. Their sensors showed human ships where there were none, and empty space where real threats lurked. Worse, their navigation systems began giving incorrect readings, sending ships toward gravity wells they could not see. "Sir, our instruments are malfunctioning," Veltar's navigation officer reported. "We're getting false readings on everything, but the instruments were working perfectly. The humans had simply fed false information directly into the Empire's quantum network, making their own ships appear to be somewhere they were not. It was like fighting an enemy that could control what you saw and heard." Engineer Woo-Bin Lim activated the final surprise from his control center that existed partially outside normal time. The debris fields scattered throughout the battle were not random wreckage but carefully positioned raw materials. At his command, they began to flow together like liquid metal. The Empire watched in horror as their destroyed ships became the building blocks for new human vessels. Metal flowed and reshaped itself. Crystal fragments melted and reformed. Even the organic matter from bioships was absorbed and converted into something new. "They're using our own ships against us," Veltar whispered. A new voice came across the communication channels. It belonged to Captain Yoonji Ryu, though the Empire did not know her name. "Commander Veltar, we need to talk." A holographic projection appeared on Veltar's bridge. It showed a human woman in a military uniform standing in what appeared to be a command center carved from solid rock. "I am Captain Ryu of the Earth Defense Force," she said. "We want you to understand something important. This is not a battle. This is a demonstration." Veltar found his voice. "What do you want?" "We want you to go home and tell your empire what you learned here today. We want you to explain that humanity is not like the other species you have conquered. We do not surrender and we do not die easily." Around them, the battle continued. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting. Weapons that should have been impossible kept working. The Empire's perfect technology was being defeated by an enemy that refused to follow the rules. "You're wondering how we did this," Yoonji continued. "The answer is simple. We had 50 years to prepare, and humans are very good at solving problems when our survival depends on it." She gestured, and the hologram expanded to show images of Earth's hidden construction projects. Massive factories built in the darkness between dimensions, shipyards that existed in folded space, research stations where human scientists had learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. "We studied your empire for half a century," Yoonji explained. "We learned your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Then we built weapons specifically designed to defeat you." The images showed human engineers working with matter that flowed like water but was stronger than diamond. Scientists who had learned to step outside time itself to conduct experiments. Soldiers training in gravity fields that could crush mountains. "You see," Yoonji said, "you made one critical mistake. You assumed that because we looked primitive, we actually were primitive. You confused technology with intelligence." Commander Veltar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed by an enemy that seemed to violate every law of physics he knew. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions, weapons that traveled through folded space, materials that rebuilt themselves after being destroyed. "This is impossible," he said. Yoonji smiled. "That's what we kept hearing for 50 years. Impossible to build ships in parallel dimensions. Impossible to manipulate gravity on a planetary scale. Impossible to create matter that programs itself. We got tired of being told what was impossible, so we decided to make it possible instead." The demonstration was ending. Most of the Empire's fleet was destroyed or disabled. The survivors huddled near the system's edge, trapped by gravity wells and surrounded by human ships that flickered in and out of reality. "We're going to let some of you go," Yoonji announced. "We want you to take a message back to your empire. Tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. Tell them that humanity has claimed this star system as our own. And tell them that if they send another fleet, we will not be as gentle as we were today." Veltar looked at his tactical display. Gentle? They had destroyed most of his fleet in a matter of hours. What are you? He asked. Yunji's expression grew serious. We are what happens when you give a species 50 years to prepare for war, and enough motivation to rewrite the laws of physics. We are what you get when you threaten the survival of beings who refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible. The hologram began to fade, but her voice remained clear. Go home, Commander. Tell your empire what you saw here. And remember, we warned you. As the projection disappeared, Veltar realized that the battle was over. But the war, the real war between the Empire and humanity, was just beginning. Commander Veltar stared at the remnants of his once mighty fleet and felt something break inside his chest. The third fleet of the Dominion Empire, 300 ships that had never known defeat, was scattered across the Sol system like broken toys. Less than 50 vessels remained operational, and most of those were badly damaged. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Traffic Control. Space Traffic Controller Jae Sung-oh's voice filled the bridge, calm and professional as if he were directing civilian ships through a busy spaceport instead of the survivors of a devastating battle. Imperial Fleet Command. This is Sol System Control. We show 47 vessels attempting to reach system edge. Please be advised that all exit routes remain closed for your safety. We recommend you maintain current position and await further instructions. Veltar felt anger replace his shock. This is Commander Veltar of the Imperial Third Fleet. You will open these barriers immediately. Jae Sung's response came back without emotion. Negative, Commander. You came here to conquer our world. The exit barriers will remain in place until we decide what to do with you. The word sent a chill through Veltar's spine. Until they decided what to do with them? The Empire did not surrender. The Empire did not become prisoners. The Empire conquered others, not the other way around. All ships, he ordered. Form up for emergency breakout. We're leaving this system. His tactical officer looked up from her displays. Sir, the gravity wells are too strong. Our drives cannot overcome them. Then we fight our way out, but even as he said it, Veltar knew it was hopeless. The human weapons had proven they could strike anywhere in the system without warning. Their ships could appear from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. How could you fight an enemy that existed in multiple dimensions at once? Admiral Bo-Ra Shin watched the Empire's futile attempts to escape from her command center deep inside Earth's core. The fortress had been carved from solid rock using tools that reshaped matter at the molecular level. Its walls were lined with screens showing every corner of the solar system. Phase 3 is ready to begin, she announced to her staff. Let's show them what it really means to be hunted. Across the system, the hunting packs began to move. Human ships that had been hidden in the shadows of moons and asteroids emerged like predators sensing wounded prey. But these were not the same vessels the Empire had been fighting. These were the real warships, built specifically for one purpose: to ensure that anyone who attacked Earth would never forget the experience. Fighter pilot Su Jin Yun led her squadron through a region of space that should have been empty. Her ships existed in quantum superposition, flickering between reality and possibility. To the Empire sensors, they looked like sensor ghosts, random readings that could not possibly be real ships. Ghost leader to all hunters, she transmitted. Empire ships are trying to group up near the asteroid belt. Time to break up their party. Her fighters materialized around a cluster of Imperial vessels that had been trying to form a defensive formation. The alien ships fired desperately at targets that seemed to exist in 17 different places at the same time. The human fighters were there when they attacked, but somewhere else when the enemy weapons arrived. Su Jin selected her target, a bioship that pulsed with organic weapons. She fired a quantum torpedo that existed in a state of probability until it chose to become real inside the enemy vessel. The bioship convulsed as foreign matter appeared throughout its living structure, causing it to tear itself apart from the inside. One down, she reported, moving to next target. But the individual ship kills were not the real message. The real message was that the Empire's survivors could not group up, could not form defensive positions, could not do anything except run from an enemy they could not see coming. Dr. Kyung-ho Bae smiled as he watched the psychological warfare take effect. The Empire's communications were filled with panic as ship after ship reported contacts that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Their sensors showed human vessels everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Increase the interference patterns, he ordered his team. I want their instruments to show them exactly what we want them to see. The Empire's ships began reporting false readings that made their situation seem even worse than it already was. Their sensors showed human fleets where there were only empty space and empty space where real threats were approaching. Navigation became impossible when you could not trust your own instruments. Commander Veltar felt his sanity slipping as report after report came in from his remaining ships. Ghost contacts that vanished when targeted, weapons that appeared inside ships without crossing the space between, gravity fields that moved like living things, herding Imperial vessels toward unknown dangers. "Sir," his science officer said, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. It's like the humans have weapons platforms hidden everywhere." Veltar studied the tactical display, but it made no sense. The readings showed human installations in places where his sensors detected nothing but empty space. Either his instruments were completely broken, or the humans had learned to hide massive structures in plain sight. The truth was both simpler and more terrifying than he imagined. Humanity had built their defenses in dimensions that existed alongside normal space, but could not be detected by conventional sensors. The Sol system was not just defended, it was layered with weapons and facilities that existed in parallel realities. Engineer Wu Bin Lim activated another phase of the demonstration from his control center that existed partially outside time. The debris from destroyed ships throughout the system began to move again, but this time in a different pattern. Instead of forming new human vessels, the wreckage began to assemble into structures that the Empire recognized with horror. Capture nets made from programmable matter. The nets were designed to disable ships without destroying them, to take prisoners rather than make kills. "They're not trying to destroy us anymore," Veltar realized. "They're trying to capture us." The revelation sent new terror through his remaining crew. Being killed in battle was one thing, but being taken prisoner by these impossible humans was something else entirely. What would creatures who could rewrite physics do to their captives? His answer came from Lieutenant Commander Minho Song, broadcasting from what had appeared to be a broken mining station. The facility suddenly unfolded like a metal flower, revealing massive tractor beam arrays that had been hidden inside. "Imperial vessels, this is Mining Station Echo 7, Minho announced. "You have two choices. Surrender now and be treated according to galactic conventions, or continue running and be captured anyway. We recommend surrender. It's easier on everyone." Veltar watched in despair as his ships were herded like animals through a maze of gravity wells and spatial distortions. Every time they tried to break free, human ships appeared from nowhere to drive them back. Every time they thought they found an escape route, it turned out to be another trap. The humans were not just fighting them. They were playing with them, demonstrating complete control over the battlefield. It was like being hunted by gods who found the whole thing mildly amusing. "This is not possible," Veltar whispered. "No species can control space and time like this." His answer came from Captain Dong Hyun Choi, broadcasting from a ship that had appeared directly above the Imperial formation without triggering any alarms. The vessel looked like it was built from crystallized mathematics, its hull shifting between states of matter. "Commander Veltar," Dong Hyun said, "you keep saying things are impossible, but you're looking at the proof that you're wrong. We did these impossible things because the alternative was extinction." The holographic projection showed Dong Hyun standing in a command center that defied description. The walls seemed to be made of folded space itself, and the controls responded to thoughts rather than touch. "You want to know how we learned to do the impossible?" Dong Hyun asked. "Simple. We refused to accept that impossible meant permanent. Every time someone told us something could not be done, we found a way to do it anyway." Around them, the hunt continued. Imperial ships found themselves trapped in gravity fields that moved like living creatures. Human vessels that existed in quantum superposition struck from every direction at once. The Empire's perfect military formation became a scattered collection of frightened survivors. "We studied your empire for 50 years, Dong Hyun continued. "We learned everything about you. Your tactics, your technology, your psychology. Then we built weapons specifically designed to defeat not just your ships, but your will to fight." Veltar realized that the battle had been over before it began. The humans had not just prepared defenses, they had prepared a complete military strategy designed to destroy the Empire's confidence in their own superiority. "What do you want from us?" he asked. Dong Hyun's expression grew serious. "We want you to go home and tell your Empire something very important. Tell them that Earth is off limits. Tell them that humanity has drawn a line in space, and that line will not be crossed. The projection began to fade, but Donghyun's voice remained clear. And tell them that if they send another fleet, we will not be content to simply send the survivors home. Next time there will be no survivors to send. 3 days after the battle began, silence filled the Sol system. Commander Veltar sat in his damaged command chair and stared at what remained of the Dominion Empire's Third Fleet. 12 ships. Out of 300, only 12 remained operational enough to attempt the journey home. The rest were either destroyed, captured, or drifting helplessly in the gravity wells that the humans had created throughout the system. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been reduced to a handful of broken survivors in less than 72 hours. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission." The main screen activated to show a human male in a simple blue uniform. He appeared to be standing in a comfortable office rather than a military command center. Behind him, Veltar could see windows showing the blue sky of Earth, as if this was just another normal day for the humans. "Commander Veltar," the human said. "My name is Insu Kang. I am Earth's diplomatic representative. I would like to speak with you in person." Before Veltar could respond, the human simply appeared on his bridge, not as a hologram but physically present, as if he had stepped through an invisible door in space itself. Veltar's security team raised their weapons, but Insu held up a hand in a peaceful gesture. "Please," he said calmly. "There is no need for violence. I am here to talk, nothing more." Veltar stared at the human who had somehow materialized on his ship without triggering any alarms or opening any doors. Matter transmission was supposed to be impossible across interstellar distances, yet here was proof that the humans had mastered even that. "How did you get here?" Veltar asked. Insu smiled slightly. "The same way we did everything else you've seen, Commander. We refused to accept that something was impossible, and found a way to make it work instead." He gestured to the empty chairs around Veltar's conference table. "May I sit? We have much to discuss." Veltar nodded numbly. Nothing that had happened in the past 3 days made sense according to everything he knew about physics and warfare. He was beyond surprise at this point. "Your empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, Insu said as he settled into a chair. "You have conquered 1,000 worlds through superior technology and overwhelming force. You have never faced real resistance because every species you encountered was less advanced than you." The human's voice was calm and reasonable, like a teacher explaining a simple concept to a confused student. "But you made a critical error when you decided to attack Earth. You assumed that because we appeared primitive, we actually were primitive. Your technology is beyond anything we've ever seen," Veltar admitted.
"How is that possible?"
"Our intelligence reports showed that humanity had barely achieved basic spaceflight." Insu nodded. "That was quite deliberate on our part. We wanted you to see exactly what we wanted you to see. For 50 years we have been very careful to appear harmless while we prepared for this day." A new figure materialized beside Insu. This one was an older man in a white coat, with the calm expression of someone who spent his life solving impossible problems. He introduced himself as Dr. Young-Sik Han. "Commander," Dr. Han said, "would you like to understand what you have truly witnessed here? Your people are scientists. Perhaps knowledge will help you process what has happened." Without waiting for an answer, Dr. Han activated a small device that projected 3-dimensional images into the air above the table. The images showed the inside of laboratories that seemed to exist in folded space, where human scientists worked with matter that flowed like water and energy that bent to their will. "We began with a simple premise," Dr. Han explained. "If the Empire could defeat us through superior technology, then we needed to develop technology that was even more superior. But we could not do it openly, because that would have prompted an immediate attack." The images changed to show massive construction projects taking place in dimensions parallel to normal space, shipyards that existed in quantum superposition, factories that built materials by convincing atoms to rearrange themselves into new configurations. "So we built our defenses in places you could not see," Dr. Han continued. "We developed our weapons using principles your science has not yet discovered. We prepared for this war in dimensions that your sensors cannot detect." Veltar watched the images with growing understanding and horror. The humans had not just prepared for the Empire's attack, they had completely reimagined what was possible in terms of physics and engineering. "The barrier around your planet," he said, How does it work? Dr. Hahn smiled. We convinced space itself that energy weapons fired at Earth simply do not exist. It is a form of localized reality editing, very complex but quite effective. And your ships that appear from nowhere? Quantum superposition applied to macroscopic objects. Our vessels exist in multiple states simultaneously until we choose which state becomes real. From your perspective, we appear to materialize from nothing. Veltar felt his worldview crumbling. Everything the Empire thought they knew about physics was apparently just the beginning of what was actually possible. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Insu leaned forward. Because we want you to understand something very important, Commander. This was not a battle between equals. This was a demonstration. We could have destroyed your entire fleet in the first minute if we had wanted to. Instead, we chose to show you what we are capable of. Why? Because we want your Empire to make an informed decision about humanity's place in the galaxy. Insu replied. We want you to go home and tell them exactly what you saw here. We want them to understand that Earth is not available for conquest. A third figure appeared at the table. This one was Admiral Tae-Jin Park, the woman who had appeared in the original warning transmission 6 months earlier. She looked exactly as calm and confident as she had then. The galaxy is about to change, Commander, she said. For 10,000 years, your empire has been the supreme power because you had the best technology. That era is ending. She gestured, and the images above the table changed to show star maps of the local galactic region. Several systems near Earth were highlighted in blue. Humanity claims these star systems as our territory, she announced. We will defend them with the same methods you witnessed here. Any Empire fleet that enters these systems will face the same fate as yours. Veltar studied the map. The humans were claiming almost 100 star systems, including several that contained worlds the Empire had planned to colonize. You cannot hold that much territory with one planet, he protested. Admiral Tae-Jin smiled. Commander, you still do not understand what you are dealing with. We are not limited to one planet anymore. The star map zoomed in to show the systems humanity claimed. In each one, new structures were visible. Massive orbital platforms, artificial worlds, installations that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. We have been expanding for 50 years, she explained. Very quietly, very carefully, but we have been expanding nonetheless. Earth is not humanity's only world anymore. It is simply our capital. Veltar felt the last of his assumptions crumble. The Empire had not just attacked one primitive planet. They had attacked a multi-system civilization that had been hiding its true capabilities for decades. What happens now? He asked, and Sue stood up. Now you go home. You tell your Empire what you learned here. You explain that humanity has drawn a line in space and that line will not be crossed. And if they refuse to accept your territorial claims? The three humans exchanged glances. Then Admiral Tae-Jin spoke, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. Then the galaxy will learn what happens when a species that refuses to accept limitations decides to expand beyond their home system. Your Empire conquered through superior technology, Commander. But we have technology that makes yours look like stone tools. Dr. Hahn added, we have learned to manipulate matter, energy, space, and time itself. We can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We can edit reality to match our preferences. What do you think we could do to an empire that still fights with conventional weapons? As the three humans began to fade from view, Insu delivered the final message. Take your ships and go home, Commander. Tell your empire that Earth and her territories are off limits. And remember, we tried to warn you before this started. Next time there may not be a warning. Veltar found himself alone on his bridge, staring at empty chairs and wondering if the humans had actually been there, or if they had somehow edited his perception of reality to include their presence. Sir, his navigation officer said, the gravity wells are dissipating. We have clear routes to the system edge. Veltar nodded slowly. The humans were letting them go just as they had promised. 12 ships out of 300, carrying the news of the Empire's first defeat back to the capital worlds. Set course for home, he ordered. Maximum speed. As his battered fleet limped toward the edge of the Sol system, Veltar composed his report to the High Command. How do you explain that the Empire's invincible fleets had been defeated by an enemy that could rewrite the laws of physics? How do you tell the galaxy's supreme rulers that their age of conquest was over? Behind them, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, beautiful and peaceful. But Veltar now knew the truth. It was the most dangerous world in the galaxy, home to a species